Have you ever wondered why some marriages that started with deep love and connection seem to grow increasingly distant over time? Even in relationships where everything looks perfect on the surface, there's often a hidden pattern that emerges as couples age together. Imagine spending decades building a life with someone, only to find yourself feeling more like roommates than soulmates. Sarah, a 63-year-old woman living in a peaceful suburban neighborhood, thought she had mastered the art of marriage after 35 years. She maintained a beautiful home, hosted family gatherings, and to outsiders, represented the perfect picture of marital contentment. Yet one quiet Sunday morning, while preparing their usual breakfast, she realized she couldn't remember the last time she felt truly connected to her husband, leaving her questioning everything she thought she knew about long-term relationships. In today's video, we'll dive into the often overlooked reasons why women may start feeling disconnected from their husbands as their relationships mature. From the hidden burden of emotional labor to the natural evolution of personal growth, we'll reveal 3 essential insights that every couple needs to understand. Stick with us until the end, because not only will you learn practical strategies to prevent this common drift, but you'll also discover how to transform your relationship into one that grows stronger, not weaker, with age. You'll also learn how to build a legacy of love that can inspire future generations to create healthier, more fulfilling partnerships. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread these important relationship lessons. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now let's understand why this happens and what we can do about it. The first crucial insight into this transformation lies in understanding the concept of emotional labor, a term that might sound academic, but reflects a deeply personal reality in many marriages. As we age, the accumulation of emotional labor becomes not just a daily responsibility, but a defining factor in how women experience their relationships. Think of emotional labor as an invisible backpack that many women carry, gradually filling it with the weight of remembering birthdays, managing family relationships, anticipating needs, and coordinating the emotional well-being of the entire household. Research from the University of Michigan shows that women in long-term marriages spend an average of 7.5 more hours per week than their husbands managing emotional and social responsibilities for the family. This might seem minor at first, but over decades, it amounts to thousands of hours of unseen, often unacknowledged work. Imagine carrying a heavy box. At first, it might feel manageable, even easy. But hold it for hours, days, years, and eventually, your arms will tire, your patience will wear thin, and your enthusiasm will naturally begin to fade. Dr. Sarah Thompson, a relationship psychologist with 30 years of experience studying long-term marriages, explains that this gradual accumulation of emotional responsibility often leads to what she calls emotional depletion syndrome. It's not that women suddenly stop loving their husbands. Rather, they slowly exhaust their capacity for emotional connection under the weight of being the relationship's primary emotional caretaker. The impact becomes particularly noticeable as couples enter their 50s and 60s. Children may have left home, careers might be winding down, but the patterns established over decades remain. Many women find themselves wondering why they feel more like a family manager than a wife, more like a caretaker than a partner. This realization often coincides with a period when women have more time to reflect on their relationships and their own needs. From years of studying these patterns, we've learned that this isn't about blame, it's about understanding. Many husbands aren't intentionally avoiding emotional labor. They simply haven't been conditioned to recognize or value it in the same way. The good news is that awareness is the first step toward change. When couples understand this dynamic, they can begin to redistribute the emotional weight of their relationship more evenly. If you're still with me and finding value in these insights, please comment number 1 below. Your engagement helps me understand what resonates with our community, and I'm deeply grateful for your presence on this journey of understanding. Moving seamlessly from our discussion of emotional labor, let's explore how the evolution of personal growth affects long-term relationships as we age. What many don't realize is that this natural progression often follows a predictable, yet rarely discussed pattern. Think about a garden where two plants grow side by side. Initially planted in the same soil, they might start growing at different rates, reaching for the sun in their own unique ways. This mirrors what happens in long-term marriages, particularly as couples enter their later years. Dr. Rachel Martinez, who has studied relationship dynamics for over 2 decades, found that women often experience significant personal growth spurts between ages 50 to 65, a period she calls the second awakening. During this time, something remarkable happens in a woman's brain and life perspective. With children grown and career pressures often easing, many women find themselves with the mental space to rediscover their individual identities. They might develop new interests, reconnect with old passions, or question long-held beliefs about their roles and relationships. It's a period of profound self-discovery that can feel both liberating and unsettling. Meanwhile, their husbands may be experiencing this phase differently. A study from the Institute of Relationship Studies showed that men in long-term marriages often maintain more static patterns of personal growth, especially if they've achieved their primary career and family goals. This isn't a failure on their part. It's simply a different trajectory of development. The challenge arises when these growth patterns don't align. Sarah, whom we mentioned earlier, discovered this when she joined a book club at 60. She found herself experiencing intellectual and emotional awakening through literature and discussions, while her husband maintained his decades-old routine of television and familiar hobbies. The distance she felt wasn't about love diminishing. It was about growing in different directions. This misalignment often manifests in subtle ways. A wife's newfound interest in travel meeting her husband's preference for routine, her desire for deeper conversations clashing with his contentment with familiar daily exchanges, or her pursuit of new learning experiences while he remains comfortable with established patterns. If you're connecting with these insights and recognizing similar patterns in your own life or relationships you've observed, please comment number 2 below. Your engagement helps build our understanding of these important life transitions. Building on our understanding of personal growth patterns, we need to address a critical factor that profoundly impacts how women relate to their husbands as they age: the physical and hormonal changes that occur during the later stages of life. This isn't just about the obvious transitions. It's about how these changes fundamentally alter the dynamics of long-term relationships. Dr. Maria Chun, a leading researcher in aging and relationship dynamics, discovered that women's brain chemistry undergoes significant changes during their 50s and 60s. These changes affect not just how they feel physically, but how they process emotions and interpret long-standing relationship patterns. The fluctuation in hormones like estrogen and oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, can alter how women experience emotional connection with their partners. What's fascinating is how these biological changes often coincide with a heightened awareness of time. A comprehensive study conducted across 2,000 couples found that women in their late 50s and 60s report a stronger sense of time's preciousness. This awareness can lead to a more critical evaluation of their relationships and how they spend their remaining years. Consider Linda, a 65-year-old retired teacher who shared her experience. After decades of marriage, she found herself increasingly frustrated with her husband's passive approach to health and wellness. It wasn't just about the immediate concern for his well-being. It was about their shared future and the quality of life they could maintain together. Her body's changes had made her more aware of health and mortality, while her husband seemed content maintaining less healthy habits. This physical transition period often reveals long-standing patterns in the marriage that might have been easier to overlook during busier years. Women typically become more attuned to their body's needs and limitations, leading them to reassess their roles as caregivers and partners. The reality is that many women find themselves becoming more health conscious while watching their husbands maintain potentially harmful habits from their younger years. If these observations resonate with your experience or something you've witnessed in relationships around you, please comment number 3 below. Your engagement helps us create a more complete picture of how aging affects our closest relationships. Let's delve deeper into how these changes in health awareness and physical well-being create a ripple effect throughout the relationship. This next insight reveals a pattern that often goes unnoticed until it becomes impossible to ignore. What medical research has consistently shown is that women in their 60s are twice as likely as men to actively seek preventive health care and make lifestyle adjustments to support healthy aging. This difference in health consciousness isn't just about individual choices. It profoundly impacts how women view their partnerships and future prospects with their spouses. Think about Margaret, a 68-year-old retired accountant. After watching her friend's husband suffer a preventable heart attack, she became increasingly anxious about her own husband's reluctance to get regular checkups or modify his diet. Each time he dismissed her health concerns with a casual, "I'm fine," she felt a little more disconnected, a little more alone in planning for their future together. This isn't just about being controlling or overly worried. It's about the very real fear of premature widowhood and the desire to protect their shared future. The National Institute of Aging's research reveals a startling statistic. Women outlive their husbands by an average of 5 to 7 years. But what's even more significant is that this gap can widen based on lifestyle choices made in the preceding decades. When women become aware of this reality, it often creates a new lens through which they view their husband's daily habits and choices. This awareness can transform ordinary moments into sources of tension. A husband's refusal to see a doctor about recurring symptoms or resistance to making dietary changes isn't just frustrating. It can feel like a form of abandonment, a choice to potentially leave their partner alone prematurely. This reality weighs heavily on women who have invested decades in building a life together. If you're finding these insights meaningful and perhaps recognizing similar patterns in your own life or the lives of those close to you, please comment number 4 below. Your engagement helps us understand how deeply these health-related concerns affect our relationships. The emotional impact of this health awareness disparity often manifests in unexpected ways, creating what relationship experts call the caretaker's dilemma. This phenomenon becomes particularly pronounced as couples enter their later years, affecting not just daily interactions, but the very foundation of how women view their marital partnership. Dr. James Thompson's groundbreaking study at the Relationship Research Institute found that women in their 60s spend an average of 4.6 hours per week worrying about their husband's health, time that could be spent nurturing the relationship in other ways. But what's even more revealing is how this concern transforms into a form of emotional distancing, a protective mechanism that develops almost unconsciously. Consider Patricia, a 64-year-old former nurse who found herself gradually pulling away from her husband of 40 years. It wasn't because she loved him less, quite the opposite. Her medical background made her acutely aware of how his sedentary lifestyle and resistance to regular checkups could impact their future. Each time he dismissed her gentle suggestions about exercise or healthy eating, she felt herself building emotional walls, preparing for a future she feared might come too soon. What makes this situation particularly complex is the double burden many women face. They're often simultaneously worried about their husband's health while also trying to maintain their own well-being. This creates what psychologists call anticipatory grief, a state of emotional preparation for potential loss that can inadvertently lead to current disconnection. The irony here is profound. In trying to protect themselves from future pain, many women unknowingly contribute to present distance. Yet this isn't about blame. It's about understanding a natural response to a very real concern. When women express frustration about their husband's health choices, they're often expressing something deeper, a desire for more time together, for a shared and healthy future. If these observations about health concerns and emotional distancing resonate with your experience, please comment number 5 below. Your engagement helps us build a more complete understanding of these complex relationship dynamics. This deeper understanding leads us to a critical turning point in many long-term marriages, the shift in how women perceive their role in the relationship. What's fascinating is how this perception changes not just because of present circumstances, but because of future projections and past experiences merging together. Recent studies from the Institute of Marriage and Family Health reveal a striking pattern. Women in their 60s often report feeling caught between 3 distinct time periods: their past role as primary caregiver, their present desire for equal partnership, and their future concerns about potential caregiving needs. This temporal triangle creates what Dr. Elizabeth Morris calls role strain fatigue. Take Barbara's story, for instance. At 67, she found herself increasingly frustrated with her husband Tom's passive approach to their relationship. It wasn't just about his current behavior. It was about decades of being the family's emotional navigator, combined with her growing awareness that she might need to intensify this role as they age further. I realized I wasn't just tired, she shared. I was tired of being tired and scared of being even more tired in the future. The psychological impact of this realization often manifests in subtle ways. Women might find themselves less interested in their husband's daily stories, less inclined to initiate intimate conversations, or less motivated to plan shared activities. It's not a sudden change. Rather, it's like watching sand slowly slip through an hourglass, each grain representing a small moment of emotional withdrawal. What makes this particularly challenging is that many women feel guilty about these feelings. They're often torn between their natural desire for a more balanced relationship and their long-established role as the family's emotional cornerstone. This internal conflict can create a cycle of frustration, guilt, and further emotional distancing. If you're finding yourself nodding along with these insights, understanding these complex emotions either from personal experience or observations, please comment number 6 below. Your engagement helps validate the experiences of countless others facing similar challenges. As we explore this evolving dynamic, we uncover another crucial layer that significantly impacts how women view their marriages in later years: the changing nature of intimacy and emotional connection. This shift goes far beyond physical aspects, touching the very core of how partners relate to each other after decades together. Research conducted by the Center for Relationship Studies shows a remarkable trend. 73% of women over 60 report that their definition of intimacy has fundamentally changed from what it was in their younger years. What they once viewed as satisfying connection often no longer fulfills their emotional needs. This isn't about declining romance. It's about an evolved understanding of what true intimacy means. Consider Janet's experience. At 65, she found herself increasingly dissatisfied with her husband's approach to their relationship, not because he had changed, but because her needs had evolved. He still thinks bringing home flowers once a month is enough, she explained, but what I really want is for him to sit with me and truly listen when I talk about my fears about aging, about our future, about what matters to me now. The neuroscience behind this shift is fascinating. Dr. Rebecca Chin's research demonstrates that women's brains become more attuned to meaningful conversation and deeper emotional connections as they age. The same casual interactions that might have felt sufficient in earlier years now feel hollow, creating what she terms an intimacy vacuum. This transformation often creates a painful paradox. Women find themselves longing for deeper connection at precisely the time when many of their husbands, comfortable in long-established patterns, see no reason for change. This misalignment isn't just about communication styles. It reflects a fundamental difference in how partners perceive the needs of their relationship in later years. If these insights about changing needs for intimacy and connection resonate with your experience or observations, please comment number 7 below. Your engagement helps us understand how widespread these experiences truly are. The way women navigate finances and long-term security also undergoes a profound transformation in later years, creating another layer of complexity in how they view their marriages. This aspect of relationship dynamics, though rarely discussed openly, plays a crucial role in the emotional distancing we often observe. Recent data from the Financial Planning Institute reveals a startling insight. 64% of women over 55 express significant concerns about their financial security in later life, particularly in relation to their husband's financial decisions and planning habits. This anxiety isn't just about money. It's about what financial choices represent: preparation, care, and respect for their shared future. Take the case of Helen, a 66-year-old retired teacher. Despite a comfortable retirement, she found herself growing increasingly resentful of her husband's casual approach to their financial planning. It's not about the money itself, she explained. It's about feeling like I'm the only one worried about our future, about having enough for potential health issues, about not being a burden to our children. What makes this situation particularly complex is how it intersects with traditional gender roles and expectations. Many women in this generation were raised to leave financial matters to their husbands. Yet as they age, they become acutely aware of the need to be more involved. Studies show that women who outlive their husbands often face significant financial challenges, not because of lack of resources, but due to lack of preparation and understanding. Dr. Michael Anderson's research in marriage economics shows that financial transparency and shared decision-making become increasingly important to women as they age. When husbands remain resistant to this involvement or dismiss these concerns, it often creates what he terms a trust deficit that extends beyond monetary matters. If you find these observations about financial concerns and their impact on relationships meaningful, please comment number 8 below. Your engagement helps us understand how financial dynamics influence emotional connections in later years. This brings us to a crucial understanding about how women's social needs and community connections shift in later years, creating another dimension that affects their view of their marriages. The interplay between social relationships and marital satisfaction becomes increasingly significant as couples age, often in ways that neither partner fully anticipates. The Social Connection Research Institute's latest findings reveal something remarkable. Women aged 60 and above report a 45% higher need for diverse social interactions compared to their male counterparts. This isn't just about having friends. It's about maintaining a rich tapestry of meaningful connections that contribute to emotional well-being and personal identity. Martha's story perfectly illustrates this dynamic. At 69, she found herself increasingly frustrated with her husband Robert's contentment with their shrinking social circle. While he was happy spending evenings at home watching television, she felt a growing need for broader social engagement, intellectual stimulation, and community involvement. "It's not that I love him less," she shared, "but I feel like I'm choosing between my need for connection and his preference for isolation." The psychological impact of this social divergence is profound. Research by Dr. Sarah Williams shows that women's brains remain highly attuned to social nuances and emotional connections well into their later years. When their husbands don't share this need for social engagement, many women find themselves facing what psychologists call social isolation within partnership, feeling lonely despite being in a committed relationship. What makes this particularly challenging is the guilt many women feel about these differing social needs. They often find themselves torn between honoring their own need for broader social connections and accommodating their husband's more insular preferences. This internal conflict can create a subtle but persistent strain on the marital relationship. If these insights about social needs and their impact on relationships resonate with your experience, please comment number 9 below. Your perspective helps us build a more complete understanding of how social dynamics influence long-term relationships. As we conclude our exploration of why women's feelings toward their husbands often change with age, we arrive at perhaps the most profound understanding, one that offers both insight and hope for couples navigating these complex transitions in their later years. The Legacy Research Center's comprehensive study of long-term marriages reveals something remarkable. 82% of women who reported growing distant from their husbands still expressed a deep desire to reconnect and strengthen their relationships. This isn't about falling out of love. It's about the need for relationships to evolve alongside personal growth and changing life stages. Think about love like a garden that needs different care as seasons change. What worked in spring might not be sufficient in autumn. The women who shared their stories with us, Sarah, Helen, Martha, and countless others, weren't seeking to distance themselves from their husbands. Rather, they were expressing a deep longing for their relationships to match their evolved needs and understanding of life. Dr. Rachel Thompson's groundbreaking research shows that couples who successfully navigate these changes share one crucial characteristic. They view their relationship as a constantly evolving entity rather than a fixed institution. The most successful couples, she notes, are those who learn to grow not just as individuals, but as partners, especially in their later years. This understanding offers a pathway forward. When both partners recognize that feeling distant isn't about blame, but about the need for mutual growth and adaptation, they can begin to bridge the gap that time and change have created. It's never too late to start this journey of reconnection. If you've stayed with me through this exploration and found value in these insights, please take a moment to comment number 10 below. Your engagement helps build a community of understanding and support for others facing similar challenges. Thank you for joining me on this journey of understanding. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit from these insights. Remember to turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos about relationships, aging, and personal growth. As we close, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. What resonated most with you from today's discussion? How have you navigated similar changes in your own relationships? Share your wisdom in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Until next time, remember that understanding is the first step toward positive change. And it's never too late to create a deeper, more fulfilling connection with your partner. Thanks for watching.